The Matthew Dark Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, praise God and welcome in. Well, there are some consequential primaries coming up, and none more important, none that will gauge the temperature in America better than Tuesday's Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th District that involves Thomas Massie's seat. Now, this is a seat that he has dominated for the last 4 election cycles in this district. And what have we found? Donald Trump has gone after him with an all-out, relentless pursuit to unseat Thomas Massie, and he'll tell you why in a series of tweets we'll go through. But we're finding a theme for those that are standing up for Epstein justice, demanding that you keep your promise, make America great again, America first. Those people that actually took that message seriously went to Washington, D.C., like Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who gave up her political career over this issue. And when she told President Trump that her son had had a death threat against him, he said it was her fault. And so we have to understand what is at the heart of this issue for Donald Trump. Why on earth would he risk his entire presidency, his entire legacy, his reputation, which means so much to him? Why would he put it all on the line for a left-wing liberal Democrat like Jeffrey Epstein? Preserving the memory of Jeffrey Epstein. Why would you do that? And so we asked then for these new outcasted MAGA representatives, because now Donald Trump, and we're going to look at his tweet against Lauren Boebert too, calling her weak-minded, calling her a traitor, calling her a backstabber, not trustworthy, that if anybody in the state of Colorado eligible to run for that seat, he would endorse them, sight unseen, just run against Lauren Boebert. So again, you ask yourself, why would a man who's accomplished so much, business world, and then in the political world? Remember, Donald Trump built the greatest political movement in the history of this country, Make America Great Again, MAGA. The problem is today, it looks very different than I think what we were envisioning when he came down the escalator in 2015. Build a wall, drain the swamp, take back our country, make it great again, right? Make it 1950s Americana. Picket fences, mom stays at home, dad gets a good job, things are affordable, things are peaceful, things make sense. God can be worshiped, families can be cherished. That's what I thought it was. As it turns out, it looks nothing like that. In fact, what we're finding, Make America Great Again, part of the prerequisites to be a part of that movement is that you have to take and accept the White House, Donald Trump, the Department of Justice, the FBI. You have to take them for their word and say, there was no co-conspirators. We've done everything we've needed to do, want to do with the Epstein files, and therefore, case closed. And Donald Trump is on the record as if you're a supporter of his that still wants Epstein justice, he doesn't want your support anymore. Hey, message understood. No worries, I'm out. Because if I have to be a part of this Epstein cover-up, which remember is the greatest cover-up in the history of America, we've never seen Whitewater, 9/11, Vietnam, the 2020 election, the COVID myth, the Wuhan wet market. There's more. This is the greatest one of all of them. JFK's assassination, MLK's assassination, RFK's assassination. There's more, but this one takes the cake. Why? Well, this has 3.5 million released documents in which we can clearly see. Well, Stevie Wonder can see it. Helen Keller can see it. Ray Charles can see it. You name the famous blind person, they can see it. They can see that it was more than just Jeffrey and Ghislaine, that the thousands of victims were also at the pleasure and services of other well-positioned, well-influenced financial titans of this world. So we understand that we have a major cover-up, and then you ask, well, why? Well, this is our swamp keeping itself together. The easiest, quickest, most effective way of draining your swamp, release the Epstein files, and it's over. We have sentences happening. We have messages being sent. We have, for the first time ever, really, a standard in America. You will not get away with crimes against children. But we're not doing that. And so you wonder why. So Donald Trump, of course, Thomas Massie is up for reelection in this week, meaning he wins that primary. Of course, he's going to win his seat back in November, and no Democrat can win in that county. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Massie, if he does win, would Donald Trump, would he actually endorse, support a Democrat to go against Thomas Massie in the future? He is labeling him, and I think it's time we need to go through some of this recent stuff. Donald Trump is beyond, and when I say beyond, he is absolutely, let me get this out of here. When we look at Donald Trump's most recent comments on social media, these are the tweets, and this is where he's coming in talking about what a bad, horrible person. So here we go. This is what he's saying about Lauren Boebert after she came out and endorsed Thomas Massie in his reelection bid. Is anyone interested in running against weak-minded Lauren Boebert in Colorado's 4th Congressional District? You remember Lauren moved to the district when it became obvious that she couldn't win in her original congressional district, the 3rd. A carpetbagger indeed. Boebert is campaigning for now here's Thomas Massie, the worst Republican congressman in the history of our country. Why? This is what he says, though. Thomas Massie of Kentucky, and anybody who can be that dumb deserves a good primary fight. So basically, if you're going to support Thomas Massie, Donald Trump is coming after you, and you're going to see them all get in line. Anna Paulina Luna didn't have the guts. Why? Who's she funded by? Well, she can't represent or support or endorse Thomas Massie. He's anti-AIPAC. He doesn't want their money. He doesn't want their influence. So you're seeing who's all on the payroll for sure. Here we go. Even though I long ago, and see, he's going to say, this was so long ago, she's changed so much. Here's Donald Trump. If the right person came along, it would be my honor to withdraw that endorsement. So this is another dig, and endorse a good and proper alternative. Just let me know, and I'll be there for you. So that's pretty filthy, okay? And then here's what he said recently also about Thomas Massie. Here he goes. This is why you shouldn't be voting for Thomas Massie. Bad congressman. Thomas Massie voted against tax cuts, the border wall, our military, and law enforcement. Actually, he voted against almost everything that is good, the worst Republican congressman in the history. Kentucky, vote the bum out on Tuesday. We can't live with this troublemaker for another 2 years. He is a true negative force. President Donald J. Trump. Now, let's strip out where he said that. He said Thomas Massie voted against the wall, tax cuts, military funding. And what Thomas Massie did do is he voted against the Big Beautiful Bill. And the Big Beautiful Bill was actually a nightmare for MAGA and Americans in general. MAGA just doesn't know it yet, because what the Big Beautiful Bill did is it preserved all the Biden era spending. And if you remember, that was the big complaint during Joe Biden: inflation, out of control government debt, out of control government spending, expansion of government. Okay, so Republicans, and Trump included, are sitting back saying, this is why he's so bad. This is why it's so bad that 2020 happened, so on and so forth. This is the same thing, though. He preserved that still astronomical, well into the COVID level government spending, where we were printing and handing out money. Money was going out all over the world, all over the country. It preserved that. It does have tax cuts in it, which makes the problem worse, because now you have government deficit. And how does our government deal with shortfalls in their budget? They print money, buy bonds. That's how it works. And so the Big Beautiful Bill was not brave. It was not bold. It was nothing that was going to, launch the average citizen into this next new income bracket. It couldn't do any of that stuff. What it did is it preserved inflation and left us vulnerable to increased inflation. Thomas Massie said this bill is no good, voted no. But of course, in these bills, they pack in military spending, the border wall, raises for our teachers, all these wonderful things. But because at the end of the day, it guarantees inflation, government deficit, printing money, guarantees those things, you don't vote for that if you're really serving your congregation, if you're really serving your body, your community, your district. You can't do that. The other deadly sin was Thomas Massie was, in fact, the propeller behind getting the Epstein Files Transparency Release Act. Okay, so we got to see it all. up to 6.5 million documents. So far, they've given us 3.5. And so far, the Department of Justice, originally Pam Bondi, now Todd Blanche, are breaking federal law by continuing to withhold the remaining files. So if a future attorney general wants to prosecute Todd Blanche, he's in direct violation of federal law. These weren't subpoenas. These weren't like, hey, would you come and give us your testimony? This was by law. Congress makes law that then we're all obedient to, says you have to give the files out. This bill passed with just one no vote, and the president signed it. The president will try to give himself all sorts of credit for signing that bill. The problem was he had no choice. It was such an overwhelmingly majority approval. There was no veto power. He had to do it. So he's so far done everything possible to get in the way of Epstein justice. So we think why? Because he's gone back and told us so many times that he has nothing to do with this Epstein, that he was a bum, he was a jerk. When I found out, I threw him out of my club and I never talked to him again. We know that's not true. And we know that the friends of his, Howard Lutnick, the slimy guy in the corner, he's always there around Trump, advising Trump. We now can show how many times he's lied to the press, to colleagues in casual conversation, that after 2008, he never had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein because of his behavior. Not that they lost contact. It was because of his conduct. I wanted nothing to do with him. And then we find out just last week as he gives closed door testimony, and trust me, if his testimony was televised, everything comes undone, right? We're hearing reports of a sweaty, nervous, doing the Bill Clinton thing where we redefine what the word was means or is means or I means. So he's playing games with the English language, covering up lies. He's a close, and what they call from the White House, close and valuable member of the Trump team. Okay, so as Trump's fans are bailing on him, being betrayed, Trump could have an easy victory right now, Howard Lutnick, because of the way you've handled the Epstein thing. I've got to let you go. This is government. This is serious business. We need the highest of integrity. You didn't show that. We thank you for your service. Goodbye. Okay. Donald Trump could score major cultural points today with people that have said that guy's either in on it or he is protecting those that he knows is in on. He gets our favor starting to creep back. Right now, what Donald Trump has basically guaranteed is that Democrats get control of House and Senate for January 2027. And then what happens right after that? Impeachment. And then what happens after that? We stop any potential, not that it's ever going to happen, but this Make America First agenda, it's never going to get off the ground. Why we're going to spend the rest of his term in impeachment. But I think it gets much worse than that, because at some point, Donald Trump is going to lose control of the Epstein files. He really does need to step down. He really does need to receive a full pardon from J.D. Vance. We'll still have to deal with J.D. Vance too, and his Palantir connections and his surveillance desires. And remember, he was a never Trumper. Never forget about this too. And the way Trump is turning on people. Think about this. J.D. Vance is hardcore on the record as saying, I would never vote for Donald Trump. He's a scumbag. He's a chauvinist. He's a xenophobe. He's racist. He's all those things. That's on the record. He's now the vice president. Let's look at like Mark Levin, some of the greatest cheerleaders for Donald Trump. What is he doing now? Or what was he doing back in 2016? Never Trumper. This guy will destroy the country. Marco Rubio, same thing. He doesn't have the temperament. He's not fit. And now they're all great friends. But what's interesting, though, is he receives the friendship from these ex-allies, those that said he was a scumbag and agreed that he should be out of politics. Okay. As he's embraced them and he's welcomed them back in, he's completely rejected so many true Make America Great people, America First people. But there's only been one reason he's ever done this. What's been the thing that's turned friend to foe in Donald Trump's mind? The Epstein files. So why? Well, this is why he wants Thomas Massie out, because Thomas Massie is the one who has gotten all this, and he's seen the information. He knows the crimes that are committed. We have Kash Patel perjuring himself at least twice in front of Congress, because what did he say? The senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, he says, is there anybody else involved with this, Kash? And what does he say? From the information we have, it was just Jeffrey and Ghislaine. From we have, and he keeps saying that, we have, right? That's what he keeps saying to us. Well, the same files that he has were part of the release on the Epstein Transparency Act. And that was not true. You can very clearly see redacted senders to Jeffrey Epstein talking about a crime, talking about some kind of fetish, talking about some kind of torture, talking about needing more. Okay. We're talking pizza, they're talking jerky, they're talking code. Rich people don't talk like that unless they are doing something. Nobody speaks like that. I'm craving grape soda. I need beef jerky. I'm jonesing for pizza. We don't believe any of that stuff. They're jonesing for children and sexual deviancy. Okay. So Kash Patel has seen enough to at least go get one other man, Leslie Wexner, the Victoria's Secret, the billionaire, the right hand and funder. One of the primary funders of Jeffrey Epstein's lifestyle was Les Wexner. And up until just a few weeks ago, he had never even been interviewed, never even been deposed on his relationship. And his relationship is pretty extensive. It involves Jeffrey Epstein being power of attorney, running his charitable foundation. It also includes Jeffrey Epstein being gifted a $70 million New York City condo. Jeffrey Epstein had the second largest house in Ohio behind who? Les Wexner. Okay. This person had never even been spoken to by the FBI. Okay. But we know that there was internal FBI documents that were suggesting and listing Les Wexner as a co-conspirator to human sex trafficking and especially child sex trafficking. It was listed. That was redacted. Thomas Massie exposed that with Pam Bondi during those hearings. Donald Trump saw that, and he also then had to fire Pam Bondi because she is not fit to be deposed. She is not fit to be subpoenaed and cover up this lie. And to Pam Bondi's sort of defense, she's not making her own decisions. She was so grateful just to get this position, unqualified for the position. And I'll be very direct. A woman shouldn't have that position. Let's just be frank. That should be a pretty ruthless position in which you are aggressively seeking the worst and the nastiest criminals in this country and getting maximum justice for the American people when they commit crimes against this country. That's not for women. Okay. That is a bulldog and an alpha bulldog and somebody that just sees justice as their only mission. You can't have a mom doing that kind of work. Okay. So, terrible choice. But again, Trump wasn't making decisions when this cabinet got put together, when this team got put together. Of course he's not. First of all, it's an enormously Jewish coalition. Okay. So those were placed by AIPAC, who gave him $250 million between his last two campaigns. They won this time. Miriam Adelson, who has also went to the Chinese trip. Now, why on earth is an Israeli-born Republican donor who's the widow of Sheldon Adelson, the casino magnate, why would she need to accompany President Trump on his trips to do business with President Xi in China? Why would you bring her? Unless this is all part of, you're not making your own decisions. That's why we need our representatives there. So you're bringing all that into the mix. He didn't even pick his own cabinet, his own team. His vice president, second in command, should be his best confidant, was a never Trumper. I mean, I don't think people stop for a second. Okay. Kash Patel spent his entire interim period before he was named FBI director running around telling us that the FBI is willingly withholding the information that would convict other sex predators. That was his whole thing. Dan Bongino, the same thing. What happens? They get into government and they tell us none of this happened, that we're maybe the bad guy for suggesting it anymore. It's not true. You should be able to see that by now. But we're going to get to see everything we really need to know about the heartbeat and the temperature check of the country this Tuesday in Kentucky, because the folks in that district are going to go to the ballot and they're absolutely Trump voters, right? This is deep red Kentucky country. Okay. This is where Thomas Massie has dominated for the last decade, but not this year. Please know this is the most expensive Republican primary race in the history of politics. It's happening right now. An estimated $30 million will be spent by the time this thing is done. That's how bad AIPAC wants their person in position. That's one part of it. The second part of it is Trump's worst nightmare is literally, truly a full exposing of this Epstein misconduct. Thomas Massie has been to the Department of Justice. He has seen the files. He can't see the redactions either. We know that. But that's not going to matter too much when the people of Kentucky speak their mind and say, send Thomas Massie back. And now Thomas Massie is going to have a brand new, he's already been a patriot that says, make America great again doesn't involve foreign wars. Make America great again, it doesn't involve foreign aid, right? Making America great again doesn't involve excess government and growing of government. We're against all that. We need to shrink down to the bare bones, right? And then it's approachable and we can deal with it as American people. And one thing, and this is the overriding one, the only thing that matters with Donald Trump is that when we sit him there, we had to have the Epstein files. We had to clean house because the concern was that there's high-ranking government, high-ranking business, making big decisions, changing our lives that are simultaneously guilty of crimes against children. And we can't have a country like that. We need a country that says, yeah, we're free. I mean, we have a lot of freedoms and you're going to be able to do what you want for the most part. You touch a kid and we'll kill you. You see the difference? We're not setting that message. In fact, what's being said to the world right now is that America's a collection of perverts at the highest level, and the culture doesn't even seem to mind. The culture just seems to say, that's how we do it here. But not a single one of them would feel this way if it was their kid locked in a closet, being abused 10 times a day, fed twice a week. All these Trump fans would say, my grandkid's in there, go get them. See, the Trump fan still that's hanging in there with him, they have grandchildren. And as it stands right now, those grandchildren are not being raised like they were in the 40s, 50s, 60s, not even close. They're not subjected to the sexual perversion and like a cheerleading against children, sexual in the classroom, in the sports, in the culture. That didn't happen when their grandmothers were going to school, not even close. We didn't tolerate that back then. But we've had mental illness explode onto the scene. We've had a sense of get God out and get choice in, right? Let's not live by any real moral standard. Let's live how you feel. Let's see what do you feel like being today? A cat, a dog, a woman, a man, a child, an adult? It's all about how you feel. But passive and corrupted Republicans just let the Democrat Party, with the help of Satan, of course, just flood culture with this stuff. And it's not having the desired outcome. You can clearly see homelessness off the charts, mental illness off the charts, abortions off the charts, broken families off the charts. You know what's a minority? The stay-at-home mom, the church-going, hardworking, we just want to live for the Lord and know our neighbors. That's a dwindling person. You know what you're getting a lot of, though, is isolation, lack of spirituality, lack of finance and resources, lack of hope, abusing things to fill gaps in our hearts, voids in our heart where the Lord should be, seeing an explosion of that. And it's coming through suicide, drug use, mental illness, homelessness. We have an erosion of the country. Donald Trump was sent back to say, get all of this out of the system, Donald Trump. You want to drain your swamp? Give us the Epstein files. Just pursue the Epstein files. That's all we're asking for. Remember, Donald Trump is now treating his ex-allies, Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. He is treating them worse than his political enemies, the adversaries. Remember the ones that wanted to put him in jail for stealing documents? Remember the ones in New York that wanted to take all of his money for a miscategorization of campaign finance funds? Remember they wanted to put him in jail and strip him of his presidency because of Stormy Daniels? These people came at him with everything. And instead of going after them, he's going after people that said, well, I thought we were doing the America First thing, the Make America Great thing. I thought we were all doing that. Was that not true, President Trump? Or did something happen when you got in this second term? Because you don't look like the same guy. You're doing things that completely oppose, like the Iran war. And let's talk about that Iran war for a second. So still have a Strait of Hormuz closed, and you still have peace negotiations that are not even close, and they will never be close to coming to terms. What are you hearing from Donald Trump and Fox News and the White House and the MAGA sycophants? What do you hear? Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's what they tell us every day. But they're almost implying as if at any cost, we won't let Iran having a nuclear weapon. We're willing to destroy the U.S. economy, to make sure that Iran won't have a nuclear weapon. Does that make sense to you? Let's think about it now. So we know for a fact that they did not have a nuclear weapon prior to this war, right? We heard that. We're very comfortable with that. We also were told in July last year that our Operation Midnight Hammer, the bombers, they went over there and they went deep, deep, deep into the ground and destroyed all the nuclear capabilities that Iran had been doing. And President Trump called it a victory. And he said, the world can be peaceful now. They'll never have a nuclear weapon. This is what he said, not me. This is what he told us. And then we found on February 28th, we had to start a war. And we had to kill the Ayatollah, remember, killed him day one. We killed the school children. Remember the 186 Iranian school children? We killed them right out of the gate. And then we've seen this nice steady creep up and hold on oil. It's impacting gasoline prices and food and services, and it's happening right now. And it's intensifying. So we're now over 2 months into the war. And we're not getting a straight understanding on how we actually benefit from this. Now, President Trump was just asked about this with Brett Baer. And they are admitting that we did this for Israel and our partners in the Middle East. Okay, stop right there. There was no mandate from the MAGA prior to 2024 election that said, do whatever you have to do to protect Israel. We don't even care if we pay $10 a gallon. We never said that. That was made behind our backs on the assumption we'd go for it. We don't go for it. We completely reject any war of choice, and especially on the behalf of a foreign nation, 6,000 to 7,000 miles away. We're not interested. We want to help the world, but right now we have a flood in the home. The home is burning down. The home is suffering here in America. So we need to address those issues and be good stewards of what we have in front of us before we help liberate the Iranian people. Or gosh forbid, there was a retaliation against Israel for starting a fight in Iran. We can't allow that, but we will allow our own people to suffer while we do this all over the world. Do you see that doesn't work anymore? And that's why Trump has lost half of the greatest political fan base that was ever built. Half of them are gone. So let's look at it. All those ones that maybe Trump picked up for 2024, meaning they were so turned off by the trans. They were so turned off by the open border. They were so turned off by the inflation that they said, okay, fine, I'm going to vote for Trump this time. That guy is so far gone. I mean, this was a one-time thing and you blew it. The guy in the middle, the independent that gave Trump a chance for this second term, not that he had a choice with Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or any of them, that person you'll never get back. You betrayed him. Okay. Now, here's the next group of people you didn't get. The original MAGA person that was willing to go out and say, I'm voting for Trump early in the campaign in 2015, early on, say that's the guy. That person who has been with Donald Trump right up until the betrayal, the Epstein betrayal, and started this whole nasty snowball. That's how we get into Iran. That's how we get hantavirus. That's how we get aliens and all this stuff, leading us all up to the Epstein moment. That person sees a different Donald Trump. That person sees an unrecognizable figure, not the one that came down the escalator that we said, that's it. That's the recipe. Build a wall, drain the swamp. Keep these invaders out and then kick out all these parasitic, demonic people that are in U.S. government. That's a great place to start. I know things will thrive from there. It feels like that gives that American dream, puts it back on the table for so many families. That person saw Donald Trump actively, willfully obstruct the Epstein files. They're not coming back. And the problem was that was a big group. 40 million people probably would never vote for Donald Trump again that have voted for him 3 times. So it's not Donald Trump anymore. Now it's easy. We vote for Thomas Massie because Donald Trump is against him. See, you used to be able to say, well, gosh, if they're trying to attack this guy, it must mean he's really good. He could be really effective. That's what Trump is recognizing. Guys like Thomas Massie that are going to get laws passed and put government behavior and accountability on the table for you and me. That's what Make America Great Again was about. America First about. We had to restore honesty, decency, policies that served the masses, not our billionaire friends, not some overseas relationship. I don't know how to make this more clear. We are closed for business. We are closed for aid. We are closed to visitors until further notice. And it's because of the amount of neglect that we have shoved down the American people's throat. So you have a major moment coming up next week with Thomas Massie. You have a major moment then coming up with Lauren Boebert, because she's now another one that is going to represent a symbol of Trump switch teams mid deal here. There's no doubt. Asking for full justice on the Epstein files, there's nothing wrong about that at all. And you are a delusional baby boomer if you're sitting at home saying there's nothing there on the Epstein files, but yes, Iran had nuclear capabilities and it was just days away. You're not a well person. You're missing information. Something has come over you. There's a trance upon you because reality is no longer making sense. You are taking orders from people that raped children, abused children. Do you understand that? You're applauding the death of more children and you get nothing out of it, except possibly some fear that you had inside of you that you didn't give to the Lord, that you didn't deal with in community. You said, I think it would be easier if we just kill the brown children. I can't take this anymore. I don't know what's going on. Shame on you, right? Right. And that's what we're doing right now. So this is going to be an indictment on Donald Trump and the baby boomer fan base that is keeping him alive right now. Because if Thomas Massie is victorious, and he is clearly the superior candidate, the loser that they drew up, they basically did this. Miriam Adelson and a bunch of billionaire Jewish people. So this is all a foreign interference election, meaning without foreign money, he's going to win 80-20. But what did AIPAC do? What did Trump do? What did that team do? They found a candidate to go against Thomas Massie that would look good on paper. Military guy, resident, longtime resident, family guy, baby boomer, 60. He's like in his 60s. Okay. And then they funded him with these PACs to the tune of $10 million just to this point. So a foreign government, the people that have an interest outside of America, are going to make impact on some little county in Kentucky. Why? Why was that make sense to you as the American public? Did you even know that was going on, American public, baby boomer guy? Did you have any idea the amount of foreign outside money outside of the state of Kentucky, outside of the United States, comes in to fund why? A political adversary. Thomas Massie exposed what goes on with AIPAC. They recruit you, they fund you, and then they own you, and then you will do things accordingly. You're starting to see it. Why on earth would you go against Thomas Massie, Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene for one singular reason? The Epstein files. So we know what's inside of these is so epic, so titanic, so some people's lives are going to be over forever, as they should be as child predators. It just hides behind these little redactions. And then enough guts from somebody in the government. We need whistleblowers like never before. Whistleblowers must come out. If you're in government and you see malfeasance right now, you must blow the whistle. It's the only way. And it's happening. It's going to be what happens to Dr. Fauci, because we know you lied to us. We know you suppressed the Wuhan Institute of Virology. We know that. And you told us that COVID came from a wet market in China, and it was most likely a pangolin or a bat that did this to us. And you had a lot of good people believe in that story. And it probably didn't look too good on the Chinese. You ever figure how racist that is to suggest that this sloppy, wet, filthy, disease-ridden market, that's what you pinned it on. Shame on you, Dr. Fauci. And we know you were doing the things on the dogs. And we know that the COVID virus was developed in a lab in North Carolina and then shipped to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where it was then released. But guess what they even had going before that? The COVID-19 vaccine, which we know is the most dangerous, harmful vaccine ever to go inside of a person. We know that because the VAERS statistics show us that. VAERS.com, they don't report all of them, but what's on paper, what you can see about injuries related to the COVID-19 vaccine, why would you ever take that? It's fentanyl. How do you know how you're going to turn out? Don't touch the stuff, run away, say no. But the bigger thing is to say no to the lies that they're continuously trying to shove down your throat. You're not living in a Make America Great environment. It's just not. Right now, everybody else in the world is the priority, but bigger than that, the dirty, filthy, nasty crime ring that is our elite, our global elites. This is the closest they've been to being exposed in, I couldn't tell you if they've ever been this close. And so now you're seeing them rear their very ugly heads. And Donald Trump right now is the front man for that. Why would he risk everything on this issue? Unless it goes right to the center of him as a culprit, a perpetrator, a participant, a witness, witnessing the abuse of children and saying nothing. I don't care if you didn't touch one. You have accountability. You're a scumbag. You could have protected a child. You looked the other way because you like the party scene. You like the 16-year-old, not the 8-year-old. We don't know exactly what level of crime Donald Trump committed in the Epstein circle. We just know that he committed crime because we're starting to understand there is no other reason that you would ever behave like this if your hands were clean. So maybe it was just inappropriately touching a 16-year-old. We don't know. We'd like to see the files, though, just to double check. And the MAGA person that says Donald Trump would never do that, well, let's just double check. Let's just verify. Remember Ronald Reagan, the great line, trust but verify. We trust you, Donald Trump. We just want to verify that for ourselves. And just because it's such a filthy topic and the consequences and penalties are so extreme, we wouldn't necessarily want to not check the box that we did do our due diligence on this. So we need the files. Okay. So this is what's coming up, folks. We've got Thomas Massie on Wednesday. It is going to be an epic week if he is victorious. I think it'll be an absolutely depressing shame, a true heartbreak to see that you can come in with big time outside money. Pick some person in the county. Okay, have you been to the military? Do you have a family? Are you a baby boomer? Perfect. And we'll fund you. You just show up. He won't debate Thomas Massie. He's done very little interview. He actually is pro and in favor of a military draft, saying our volunteer system is leaving us short. We should have a selective service draft. That's what they want. More wars, more foreign aid, more spending, more American blood overseas. I don't know about you. All that stuff makes me want to puke. I want the opposite. I want our boys home. You don't need to be protecting Japan or Germany or the Middle East. That's not our business. That's not our concern. You know what is our concern? Our border, our inner cities, our inflation, our corruption, our spending, the lack of quality education in America. These are all our concerns. I don't even think about Japan. I never think about Germany. I never think about those places. Why? And why are you thinking about those places while you overlook the mess in front of your own neighborhood, your own city that's beginning to deteriorate and has been deteriorating? Why do you only see other people's problems? How about our own? Is it famous, like in the Bible, when Jesus says, who are you you haven't noticed this log in your eye? You're pointing out your friend's speck, and yet we're not seeing things clearly anymore. We have America suffering, but there's still a chance. So we have all prayers, all support, all faithfulness behind Thomas Massie for Tuesday. Of course, we've got great shows lined up. Scott Bottoms coming up this week, Colorado gubernatorial candidate. We'll get him on Wednesday, and we'll just be prayerful still that the Holy Spirit begins to change hard hearts. Got hard hearts in America right now. We got hearts in denial, and we're hoping that the Holy Spirit can come in and free those hearts, free those minds, open those eyes, take the scales off, let them see what they're looking at. Trust your eyes now that you can see. There's some wicked stuff going on. Are you going to do anything about it? You're going to say anything to anybody? You're going to change what you're doing? Are you going to go right back to self? We got to get out of self and back into others, and we'll start to notice the suffering. And once we communicate our suffering, all MAGA, all Democrats, to the government, not working, not doing it, do better immediately, or else we have to replace you. We have to get you out of here. We think it's crazy that there's no term limits. People get into these and they return worse and worse results over 10, 20, 30 years in Congress, and we're doing nothing about it. We got a chance to do something better this time. Big time season coming up, primaries, of course, midterms in November. So we're going to be with you again soon. Hit subscribe everywhere, folks, and do this until next time. Tell a friend about Jesus, serve him well, and stay good. God bless everybody.
The Matthew Dark Show, your one-stop show for truth, courage, fellowship, and faith. Available everywhere you get your podcasts.